You're watching News 13 at 5, and in the past year, more than 22,000 human trafficking victims were identified nationwide. And during that same period, the state of South Carolina made contact with more than 600 victims.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at who those victims are and how they're targeted. And News 13's Julie Calhoun shares two human trafficking survivors' stories.
At 14, this older relative sold me for the first time. He took me to this house and sold me to three men that he owed something to.
Kat Wehunt's trafficker was a relative who started sexually abusing her as far back as she can remember.
From 14 to 17, I was sold to pastors and doctors and lawyers and like police officers and people you think that would never buy sex from a child were purchasing me.
Victims often know and trust their trafficker. According to the Polaris Project, the group who runs the national hotline, family is the second most common recruitment tactic.
Oftentimes people think of money because it's estimated to be a $150 billion a year industry, but we've seen food, clothes, parents exchanging their children for rent.
Wehunt now runs the only survivor-led service provider in the state called the Formation Project in Charleston.
During the whole time, I was getting doctor's appointments and I was sitting in school and I was going to the grocery store, standing like behind normal people. And nobody knew. Nobody had any idea that I was being trafficked.
In 2018, South Carolina reported 678 human trafficking victims.
We primarily see females, although boys and men are trafficked as well.
Traffickers also seek out those who have been victims of other kinds of abuse in the past, runaways, or those facing unstable home lives, which is what Heather Pounds' life was like. Polaris reports the average age sex trafficking starts is 17, but Heather met her trafficker at 14.
Said he loved me, who said that no bad things would ever happen to me again, that he was going to take care of me. It was like he was coming in as my knight in shining armor and all the bad things were going to disappear, and I believed everything he said.
A year later, she was hooked on drugs. According to Polaris, the number one way victims are trafficked is by an intimate partner, and the number one way traffickers control them is exploiting substance abuse.
I had to work the streets. Back then it was called street walking, and you would walk until you made enough money to come in for the night. And this is what took place in my life for the next 18 years.
These are the top 5 counties in South Carolina reporting human trafficking. Heather says she's been trafficked in 3 of them, including the number 1 county, Horry.
Myrtle Beach was one of those areas that we spent a lot of time in Myrtle Beach, and it's probably one of the places that I hate to go back to the most because there was a lot of abuse that took place.
Heather is now 44 and living in Columbia, but for nearly 2 decades, she felt trapped in that life. As a high school dropout with a drug addiction and a criminal record, she didn't see a way out.
It was walking around with just you're a prostitute, you're trouble, you're rebellious, you're no good, you're a criminal, you're a thief, you're a liar.
One night in Charleston, that all changed. Heather was set to fly to New York to be sold. She got arrested on purpose to get away from her trafficker and spend the next 2 years behind bars.
I truly believe that Jesus rescued me that night.
With the help of the Attorney General's office, Heather has gotten many charges expunged and is waiting to be pardoned. She believes there needs to be more education identifying victims, and more education can help victims identify themselves. Neither Heather nor Kat knew they were a victim until they were involved in advocacy work.
I would say 90% of the women that I serve and the people that I serve don't know either. Like, I am telling them for the first time.
Kat and Heather continue on their own path to healing and helping others with theirs.
There's nothing like getting to walk with somebody like in their healing journey and see them like conquer their goals and learn to love themselves.
The past 10 years have just been a journey of healing and restoration and rebuilding and reshaping everything in my life.
Reporting for News 13, I'm Julie Calhoun.
And you can get continuing coverage of our stolen lives, human trafficking stories online at WBTW.com.
We're also on the News 13 mobile app, and it's all more local coverage you can count on.